past Sunday, in the Gospel, we heard a familiar story of Jesus himself being tempted in the desert. And every year as we begin our Lenten journey, we hear that story because Jesus himself was tempted, and he has shown us how we can resist or combat temptation in our own lives. The reality of temptation we know all too well. And that's the first R of what I like to call the way to deal with temptation, to realize we're being tempted. Temptation is something we all deal with countless times throughout the day. But do we often recognize the temptation, or do we simply just go along with it without even realizing where it's coming from? The second R is to recognize. Temptation distorts the truth. What the devil strives to do is to get us to call into question God's loving relationship with us. And that's what we see going on in the gospel. If you are the Son of God, etc., etc. The devil calls into question Christ's loving relationship with the Father so that the devil's lies start to make more sense. And isn't that what temptation does for us as well? It distorts the truth by telling us that somehow money is going to really make us happy, by somehow telling us that we know better than God. All of those distortions we need to recognize for what they are, a distortion of the real truth we can believe in, God's loving concern for us. And that's what the devil strives to erode that we need to recognize in our lives. And finally it gets us to the last R, to resist. And this is where Jesus shows us the way. By staying rooted in his love for the Father and by staying rooted in the Scriptures, Jesus is able to resist the temptations the devil throws at him. And that's the tools he gives to us as well. And during this season of Lent, that's what we strive to do. This is a season of conversion. This is a season of change. And while what we're giving up, or maybe the extra prayers we're saying, are great, what they should be leading us to is to change behaviors, to change attitudes, to change our hearts. And those usually are rooted in the temptations that we have started to give into, or even grown accustomed to in our own lives. So as we strive to be more resistant to the influence of evil, let us learn from Christ to stay rooted in the Scriptures and to stay rooted in our love for God. By focusing on those two things this Lent, growing in our prayer with the Scriptures and growing in our personal relationship with Christ, we also find the path to success so that we can be more resistant to temptation, so that we can follow in the steps of Christ. Not a sermon or a homily, but a thought that all of us need to reflect on.